Go. I do believe we're live, so I'll say indeed, and greetings unto you, beloved and holy friends. I appreciate you for joining me again. It's always nice having you in these moments, having us consider our centering thought, the things that we care about. It's interesting to notice how they change. It's interesting to notice how we don't about certain things. How, if enough time passes, the part of us that cared ceases to exist. And only this version of you that you are right now is asked to care about something else. It's almost like we live in a world where things are iteratively happening so fast that the things for you to care about are happening. And then by the time you have garnered the emotional bandwidth to care about this one thing, there are 5 more other things for you to have been caring about. And then it's almost like we have this deficit. We have this lack of care to give to all of the things that require it. And we have to start making sacrifices. We have to start caring about some things more and some things less than others. And that's the thing I'm curious about. What is it that makes us decide? How much of it is affected by our current world, our current motivational systems, our current values, and how much of it is motivated by our own needs, our own desires, our own wants? The thing I'm worried about, the thing I'm caring about right now, let's say, is this ability to stop caring from the perspective of how can we, is the word protect? How can we bolster ourselves against that ability to not care? Against that feeling that arises in you at some point where you just stop caring. You're like, oh, now I don't care anymore. You have pushed me too far, and I have now stopped caring completely. How can we ensure we don't get there? I think it's one of those things that's a little bit easier said than done. What I'm thinking about right now, what is calling for my care, is the fact that I'm growing a plant. And this plant is being pollinated somehow. There's not any male plants close, or at least there's not supposed to be. They're not in my field of vision. They're definitely not in the same greenhouse. But there's definitely pollination happening because I can see seed nodes forming instead of just the calyxes. And then thinking about that calls for my care. Hey, eyes, it's nice having you here. The things that call for our care, eyes. You ever think about that? I'm thinking about how I sometimes care too much about something pretty simple. Think we care almost like a joke saying that out loud, but at the same time, it is true, right? If you, especially considering our whole perspective of this, only so much for you to care about. If you, knowing that, have chosen to care about a very small group of things, and that group of thing that you care about so particularly, especially, gets attacked, isn't in the way that you want it to be, it feels a lot more significant, right? The amount of care you apply is a lot different. For instance, right? The amount of care that is applied in my mind and in my heart thinking about quantum computing, thinking about AI, thinking about blockchain, thinking about the internet, thinking about robotics, thinking about synthetic biology, thinking about, let's say, transhumanism. It's a lot, a lot is a single word, but all of those things, right? Those things find a lot of care in my heart. They are very significant to me as it relates to my news cycle, if you will. Right? I'm locked in. I care a lot about that. And in that way, when things happen in that space that are positive for that space, it brings a lot of care into my mind. Right? Like most recently, the Microsoft Majorana, I think I'm saying it incorrectly, but Majorana quantum computers, they spent the last 17 years developing new technology so that we can, in the same way as we did from tubes to transistors, go from transistors to topoconductors. It's a it's a big deal, but not everybody cares about it. Not everybody has the bandwidth to care about something like that because it's not affecting them directly right now. Even though it will, even though it will be one of the most influential things ever. In the same way that AI, right? I'm pretty sure we were like talking about AI a lot from the get-go, from like the original RPAN days, before ChatGPT was even a thing that people knew existed, right? And in that way, quantum computers and gene editing and blockchain and like our interconnectivity, brain-computer interfaces, stuff like this is going to become more and more normalized to the point where again, people won't have to care about it. But in the meanwhile, it's going to be some of the most transformative technology we've ever seen as a species. And we're getting to see all of it unfolding simultaneously. It's like literally bonkers. Like it would have been better if we as a species figured out computers, and then we figured computers out. And then we figured out AI. And then we had AI figured out. And then we figured out quantum computers. And then we had that figured out. And then we figured out gene editing. And then we got that figured out, with like 10 100-year time frames. Would have been great if we could have done it that way. If we could have spent the last 2,000 years doing all of these things. But no, all of it. Every single one of those things simultaneously. Like that is so bonkers. It's so far beyond what we can care about alone, right? And there's so much care being put on it collectively. It's quite wild. Living in the future comes with a lot of baggage because you spend a lot of time in the present collecting it. Collecting cares. I'll be right back. I have returned to this space with your friends. more opportunity for us to consider what we care about. Might be cheesy, but I feel this urge, this compulsion to let you know that I care about you. And then I have this urge to let you know that if you thought you don't even know that I'm here, I'm watching this afterwards, you don't even know who I am because you can't see me, I don't have to, because I am literally a mirror. I might as well be an actual mirror that you are standing in front of. And in the same way, you can pull faces at yourself and be entertained by that, potentially. I am being that mirror to you as well. I am a person like you on planet Earth. I happen to be in South Africa right now. But I also happen to be in the same boat, watching world events unfold, flabbergastedly by the amount of absurdity. It is quite surreal. This topic hits as it comes to other humans, cause I'm a very emotional person with a huge abandonment and invalidated wound. But when it comes to other things, I don't think I'm passionate about much to care enough. So I don't know if I'm hearing this correct, but I'm trying to listen, Eyes. Do you feel you spend more time caring about the abandonment that you had experienced and the fact that people didn't validate that pain that you had experienced, or the person that abandoned you is invalidating that wound? I don't think you're wrong to care about that. That is pretty significant as an experience. But I do get what you're saying, with because that is something you cannot help but care about. You are left without the bandwidth to care about much else. What is worth your care these days? I hope you're taking care of yourself. That's a good one. It's a good one to start with. Make sure you're at least taking care of yourself. Practice yoga, eat whole meals, drink enough water, sleep enough hours, take mindful breaths every now and then. That really is all we have to care about. Technically, that's all we really have to care about. But those simple things have become expensive, right? Now, for me to sleep comfortably, I need to have a fan running or an air conditioner, which costs energy. And to get that energy, there has to be a grid, or I have to be able to afford batteries. But to power those batteries, I have to install solar panels. And to afford solar panels, the things we care about, the things we're supposed to care about, always grows in scope. Because it's never as simple as just caring about the one thing and then you're done caring, right? I can't just care about making sure the plants get water. Sometimes I have to make sure they get a little bit more than that, especially if I'm going to expect the plants to give me something that I want to use. I'm going to have to give some love too. I have reached the final boss of this conversation in my own head, and it is the consideration of, do people care about me? Do I care about people? The I question is easier to answer because I have a bunch of evidence for me caring about people. And in the same way, the people question can technically be easily answered because I do have evidence of people caring about me. But there is, in that dynamic, the pulling away from other people because it's almost like we don't want to be wrong. We don't want to be convinced that other people don't, in fact, care. And it really is as simple as you stop being valuable. Whoa, I really slept in. How goes it? Always better with you here with us, Xiao. It's nice having you. Hope you rested well. It was been has been raining a little bit here, so it's nice and wet outside. So we're sitting inside a little bit, and we've been talking about care. You did come up in my mind a bunch of times as we talked about what we care about right now, but we're considering this dichotomy of care as it relates to our lives and as it relates to the things we end up doing with our lives. How me caring more about certain things will make my life be a certain way. For instance, if I cared only about racing horses or betting, gambling my life savings on horses racing each other, then that care might not be very good for me in the long term, right? And the life I'll get to live is a life that cared about that. And in that way, it becomes a very about how powerful the things we care about are in our lives. Right? I don't think I don't spend a lot of time considering that always, but I think it's important for us to give proper credence to, proper respect to the care that is placed. I care about plants a lot. I wonder if I place too much care on plants because I've had fights with people, my dad and my mom. No more electricity for the next 4 hours. It's going to be quite the experience. We haven't had 4 hour power outages in a while. But it's always another moment to experience new things, right? Like this river of load shedding is not one I haven't walked through before, but I'm a new man on the other side, walking through this river of. I want to say care, but maybe lack of care is a better way to say it. Yeah, the political climate. Our country, through some of the USAID international development, got a lot of money, admittedly. Right. Unfortunately, I wasn't necessarily the direct beneficiary of any of it. Would have been great if I could get a few $1 million. But the people that got the millions of dollars, unfortunately, weren't using all of it to better our country. But now that those millions of dollars have ceased to exist, they cannot afford the same things, like keeping our lights on, for example. Fortunately, there's a battery, and that battery is getting 11 watts of solar power right now. Unfortunately, the power, that 11 watts, is going to continue to diminish as the sun continues to set. But it's 11 watts of energy that the sun is giving us. So it has encouraged our country, and we are pretty good on the adoption front, and we're going to get gooder on the adoption front now again. Every single time they implement load shedding, the amount of solar installations skyrocket. So that's again what's going to happen is more people that can afford to are going to buy batteries and solar panels, and they're going to stop relying as much on ESCOM. And then ESCOM is going to lose customers, are going to lose the customers that are actually willing to pay their bills, because those customers will use that money that they spend on their bills, to buy themselves a remote energy source. We're already basically in South Africa a mostly private company, like relying country. Like there's nobody else to rely on. Each other, right? Private companies is the closest thing to each other that we have at this point. I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm commenting on the fact. There's certainly a healthy amount of care and an unhealthy amount. It depends on where properties. It depends on where properties. It depends on the properties, maybe. Can't can't care about being right, right than correct. Care about being right rather than correct. That's an ego problem. Yeah, being right over being correct. Being correct is also caring about being right. Yeah, there we go. Caring about being right rather than correct. I feel like I'm taking that wisdom to heart, Joe. It's definitely something that I can be capable of. When we are talking about a problem, it should always be us versus the problem. And when we can identify a problem, we can take steps towards solving it. Because if we don't do that, the only option we're left with is to point fingers, play the blame game, to make others responsible. Priorities. Geez, sorry. Like I said, just woke up. It's okay. Ciao. I know that you were sending lovin's. Tommy, it's nice having you here too with me. We're talking today about what we care about. In part inspired by you, Tommy. Weirdly enough, because yesterday we talked about how people don't really care for conversational live streams. They don't really care for philosophy. And that made me think about many things, right? What do I care about? Why is it I care about things? Why is it that the care I have for things beget me doing certain things other than others? How me caring for the things that I care for got me all the things, the experiences, the opportunities that I've had up until this point. And in that way, it's almost comical to let other people decide what you should care about. Why are you so quiet today? I'm quiet? Hmm. Maybe our opinion about what quiet is. Maybe I'm not speaking that loud. I am inside. Maybe I project my voice louder when I'm outside. Hey, party people, we got another friend on Twitch, Nixon Sagi. I probably butchered your username. I apologize, but it's nice having you here. This is the Conscious Evolution stream, and we consciously evolve. I'll let you know. This is something we care deeply about. We imagine it's Sunday. You know what that means? It's Nix. Nixon, by the way. Nixon. Nixon Sagi. Really? Yes. Care. Today's stream topic is about care. The thing we're trying to consciously evolve inside ourselves is our ability to care. And if there was any wisdom that was extracted from the collective intelligence, it would be to consider the evolution of our caring. How, when we exist in an egocentric way alone, the care we have for the world tends to be Nixion. Nixion. Usagi. Nixion. Excuse me. Thank you, Nixion. I see you care about your name, and that's good. Good. I care about mine too. My name is MeltMore, right? And that's actually something I spent some time thinking about today, where some people will call me by my old name, the name I used to be. But that is not me. When people call me that, I think about the version of me that I used to be. And then I acknowledge, if you will, that they're addressing the myself I am. And I'll kind of indulge. I'll be like, okay, inspired by me, really? I mean, you did share that people don't care about this kind of stuff. And I was like, huh, you're not wrong. What do I care about? Right? Consider. That is what this whole stream is about, Tommy. That's why I do this, right? Because it's not just, yeah, I'm gonna do whatever. I'm gonna play Skyrim for the next 7 hours and talk about that, and that's the live stream, right? I could do that too. That could be fun. I can't do it right now because we're without electricity, so that also helps this kind of format because I don't have the same freedoms, unfortunately, always to South Africa. And when I started doing these streams, that was true about South Africa too. So it is about you. I care about what you friends add to this space. I really do. Now it's Sunday. You know what that means? It means give me a Bible verse. Hey Google. No, I'll ask one of my language models instead. Uh, can you give me a good Bible verse, even two, that beautifully encapsulates the ideas we've discussed today? Let's see. Ideally, there is equal balance between our cage for others, our care for others, and our care for ourselves. I agree, Jean. I think it's hard to maintain that balance, unfortunately, because again, we're not really incentivized towards self care in that way. And I'm one of the people that actually believe in service towards others. But again, it is balance, as you said. Is racism still there in South Africa? Racism is still everywhere in the world, bro. What verse is that? I don't know. I'm gonna let you know right now. Apparently, Romans 12, verse 2. Do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you'll be able to test and approve that God's will is His good, pleasing, and perfect will. You see, the part of me that cares sometimes takes fault with that whole fractal. It was actually a conversation that was had today about, God healing the blind, where I'm like, I'm more than willing to believe in like miracles, but like, why isn't God just healing the blind? right? Like I'm really confused by that. I'm like, bro, if you have the power to like heal blind people, why not just do that? Why not just do that for everybody that's blind right now? And instead, we're building technology. Like people are going to have chips planted into their brains, and then they're going to have cameras strapped to their face with like VR goggles or whatever, or a pair of glasses with two little cameras on them, and that's going to become their eyes, and like they will be able to see. Like they will be able to see, but not by prayer alone, right? By human beings coming together and going against God's will in some ways, I guess. Is it God's will because it's good, pleasing, and perfect for people to be blind? Right? I care too much about this fractal. I care too much for me to just be like, "Mm, yes, I completely agree. Ideally, there's an equal balance. True. I spell checked for others. Love is true. Solid. Amen. Then we got some devotee Christians here. I am technically not by taking in victories. I'm so happy you asked these questions. Hold up. I'm about to lock in. You lock in, friend. I'm here for it. The verse speaks to the inner transformation and selective caring that comes with spiritual evolution, renewing your mind to focus on what truly matters rather than fleeting concerns of the world. You see, what truly matters in the whole religious fractal is salvation, right? Is having your soul saved. But in my world, from my perspective, with the things I care about, having my soul saved doesn't help others, right? Doesn't really help you for my soul to be saved. Maybe you love me enough for wanting to my soul saved. Maybe I can agree. But at the same time, if my soul is saved, it's almost like I've hit the metaphorical save button, right? Like the computer can turn off. I can lose my save file, or maybe I shouldn't lose my save file. I can lose my electricity, and suddenly it can disappear, and I can trust that my save file, my religion is there to kind of catch me if this computer turns off in that way. And like that just doesn't serve the way I think about things. It's too narrow-minded, unfortunately. Okay, gotta go study. Good luck, friend. Enjoy. Okay, so there's blind people, right? Not only that, but in general, there's a lot of suffering in millions of different forms. So God is all good and all powerful. Why is there evil? No, I'm not asking why is there evil, right? I believe God is everything. That's what I believe about God, right? So I'm not uh, like an atheist by the traditional metric. I am a spiritualist, if anything. But the thing I call God is literally everything, as in everything, as in the good and the bad. And in that way, because I see God as everything, I don't care, about it in the same way that I care about everything else. As in, I care proportionately more about the people that I can love in my life than I care about this idea of what God is. Because again, God is everything. And I can love everything. I can sit here and meditate blissfully like a yogi and be like, I love everything. And let my love for everything just stream out of me. And that would be good and well. But for me, as an ego, as a person in the world, I care about certain things more than I care about others. And that can look like people that I love very much in my life. And me just sitting here and loving the everything isn't going to be as valuable to me as going towards that person and loving them, right? And in that way, there is choice to be made, and in that way, evil can arise if we're going to have that conversation. But again, if someone chooses to go towards the light, chooses to become a devotee of God, if it was provable, right? I become a devotee of God, I ask for the forgiveness of my sins, I go through all of the steps that are required, if you will, right? That will save my immortal soul, and then I get my sight back, right? Why not? Why can't it be repeatable, right? Like, I am a scientist, unfortunately, in that way as well. It comes back to the repeatable, to make balance of this world. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Everything is in balance, right? But in that way, God is not good. God is everything. God is the collective. God is infinity, right? And you are that too, in that way as well. There is no separation because God is everything, including you. It all comes down to your purpose. Why were you made? Uh, because I've asked this question to my dad, because they wanted me. Like, that's the answer I've gotten. They wanted me. They wanted this to exist in the world. They wanted that, right? And then they made it happen. I believe from what Jesus said is that you were made to love each other. Yeah, I believe that too. And God, and be in a relationship with each other. Yeah. But to have love, it needs to be free, which is why we have suffering, which is why God doesn't go around healing everyone and giving everyone force fields to protect them. But why not give force fields of protection to those who are loving? Right? If you make the choice of being loving, and this is what I believe, by the way, right? So we're not in disagreement about like the ultimate philosophy of how we're supposed to show up. I'm in 100% agreement, right? I believe in the whole line that God is love, right? But I also believe love is everything. And I also believe that love has a very wide range of experiences, right? Love also looks like a mother tiger or mother lioness murdering another mother, right, to feed her children. Like, that's also love, right? Very brutal, but also love. Very much so, right? And that's also a part of the everything that is God. So it's not, right, like, I'm not going to start worshiping the getting eaten by a lion God, right? Or the fractal of getting eaten by a lion as a buck, right? Oh yes, worship this. No, because that's not the part of God that I care about. And in that way, the image, the perspective of God that we've built in our species right now is one that we care about, right? It's very, I want to say, almost like tainted by human values and what we think is important, because he respects your free will, and your free will, your choices have consequences. It's true. God takes our free will and our choices very seriously. Yeah, right? So, like, just for what it's worth, I need to remember how to say your name again. Ni Nixion. Nixion, yes. Nixion. So, Nixion, like, today was Sunday. So, my parents went to church, and their pastor has two children on the autistic spectrum. And they're on the autistic spectrum to the point where they've become nonverbal, right? And they do not have the same social aptitude, right? Getting naked and running around in front of people isn't strange, isn't odd in their world. And if we're going to talk about God in that way, we can assume that God wanted them to be created in that way, wanted them to be like that. That was the intent. That was an intention. That was a part of uh, his good, his pleasing and perfect will, right? And in that way, it is this weird dichotomy of the choice that that person made, that pastor. He made the choice to devote his life to Christianity. And then he made the choice to marry a woman and to have children with her in wedlock as God intended, according to the Bible. And then both of his children are highly autistic. And the challenge that comes with raising them has become exponential, right? They're still his children. He still loves them very much. But now the act of raising a child has been made exponentially more difficult, despite his choices, right? So again, there can be this prayer for things to change, for God to make his children unautistic, or there can be this effort applied from his world and from the world of us people to try and help those children, to give them the tools that they need to still put input into this world, right? Be it learning them, teaching them how to use language, or teaching them how to get what's inside their minds out into the actual world. And eventually it's going to look like brain computer interfaces, right? Where if you had to talk to the average Christian, if I had to talk to you, Nixion, what do you think about brain computer interfaces? Right? Making a hole in your skull and then putting electrodes in your brain, all right, that connect to a little output receiver, like a receiver slash output device as well. Transceiver and receiver. There we go. Yeah. All right. Like to one person, that might be evil, might be the mark of the beast. To another person, it will be a saving grace, will be the miracle they've been praying for their whole lives. Right. And again, from my perspective, God gave both. Right. God gave you in your mind the perspective of the world that this is the ultimate evil and we should never. And God also gave you the perspective of this is a net good for our species and it's something that's going to help a lot of people. Right? And in that way, you are the God of your reality because you're the one almost taking that perspective of the I am. Right? Every single day you wake up, you go, I am. Here I am awake. I am brushing my teeth. I am eating food. The I am is I aming every day. Right? And in that way, that was God's or Jesus's teaching as well, if you will, of I am. Right? You are that I am too. Right? The I am, and it, again, unfortunately got missed. But no, love is not everyone. We disagree. If I smack you across the face, that's not love. Also, according to your logic, me smacking you isn't wrong because that's just God hurting God. It's very interesting to me, Nixion. Like my dad, unfortunately, like does that a lot with me as well. He's also a very traditional Christian, and he'll also sometimes say things like, "So what you're saying, right? According to your logic, me smacking you across the face isn't wrong." Right? Like I don't know how like people get to that conclusion, right? Like they'll hear me say something that we are all God, and again, like I don't know how that's not wrong, right? If you were smacking God, right, instead of you being an abusive husband, you were not being an abusive husband to what you think is your wife. You were being an abusive husband to what is God, literally God. Like it's more wrong to harm each other when that truth becomes truly absorbed, right? So you're literally misconstruing my logic into the opposite of the spectrum, right? And again, that is your choice. That's what you choose to believe about this belief. Same way, you can't really just have a relationship with yourself. You literally do have a relationship with yourself. Some people spoke a lot. Some people drink a lot, right? Those people have a bad relationship with themselves, literally, because they're doing something that's bad for themselves, for this body, right? And in that way, you do have a relationship with yourself. You can only have a relationship with other people. Not true. That's why Jesus is part of the Trinity. It's about community. So, can't you have a relationship with God as well? So, that's something other than other people. You say you can pray, or we can help them ourselves with science. But, sir, to me, I don't see why you can't do both. There's this funny story my pastor used to tell me about a drowning guy, and he prays to God to save him. And the guy, yeah, 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 yeah. It's like I sent the guy of the rowboat and I sent the helicopter. Yeah, yeah. I grew up in a Christian household, Nixion. Like I've been through this rodeo. He refuses and dies. Yeah, sent you two boats. Yeah, 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 yeah. I I grew up in this environment too, Nixion. Hey, I see Zano here with us. Hey, Frank. So it's not a matter of lack of exposure, right? Quite the contrary. I've had more than enough time to consider these ideas, and they have not garnered any care from me. I'm still willing to absorb the messages, but I'm still willing to call them out, right? Like the next one is Corinthians 13, verse 4 to 7. Let's see if this is good wisdom. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Yeah. This passage encapsulates a deeper, more discerning kind of love, one that nurtures spiritual growth and emphasizes caring for others in a genuine, transformative way. Together, these verses invite us to shift our focus inward, transforming our inner lives to that so that our actions and care for others become expressions of a higher truth and deeper connection. This I can resonate with. But again, that is the things that people care about as it relates to love, right? And I care about those things too. I feel like that. Mhm. Okay, since you heard it, all you must have plenty of time to get a rebuttal. So let me know what you think. Okay. Have you been praying for let's ask this question. Are you safe? Do you have enough Nexion? Right? Maybe that can be the question. Right? Then what does that safety look like? And what does that having of enough look like? And are you praying for that? Right? And isn't it one of those things that people are going to keep praying for? And then again, you can say that, oh, God said I gave you this apple. But that prayer in and of itself isn't what you're looking for, right? Again, in my world, it is about not praying. Because the problem, that would be my rebuttal, the problem in that whole thought experiment is that person is praying for something. Instead of having their eyes open and waiting for someone to help in the real world in which we are, and getting on the boat that's being sent to them, they're praying. They're like placing the significance of this moment into this other place, right? And I do that too, just for what it's worth. I do that with the future. I place the significance of where I'm going to be in the future, and with the tools and the capacity that I'll have to potentially do things, right? Help people, help myself even if I need to, right? And then again, with the whole heaven fractal and like waiting for God to come and save us, we place our focus. Like for me, the future is, I think, wrong as well doing that because I'm not being present as I'm supposed to be. But with the heaven, you'll never get there, right? And even if you get there, nobody will know. However, we're going towards the future. And when we get there, everybody will know, right? At least those who are around to be there in the future with me. And us focusing on the future in that way and placing significance in that future and the development of this present moment towards that future instead of just kind of tuning out, right? Hitting the save button, piecing out, getting raptured, right? Like that's not the future that we look forward to. That's not the future we imagine existing. So there is this kind of personal responsibility taken to keep your eyes open and to get on the boat, right? To not wait for whatever it is you're praying for. We're all God, but also to be evil or good, it depends on the dog you feed, your choices. You're so right, Sano. Hurting people is a choice. That choice, in my mind, makes you a bad person or a bad God. I like the Corinthians verse, one of my favorites. It's a good one. It really is a good one. It's a good one to read and to be reminded of. I agree, actually, Jean. I hope so. It's something that really scares me when I get to heaven, thinking I put my genuine father in Jesus when I wasn't. But that's kindness paradox. Like someone who is kind, but they think they're a bad person because they only manipulated people to think that they are nice by being nice, so they don't truly believe they're a nice person. But be here now, now be here, right now, could be our heaven. It already is, right? Getting to take these moments and to realize that we're already saved. I think that's something that I find a lot of disagreement with as well, Nixion, right? I've not been a part of the Christian faith since I was like 13, around that age. I'm 27, going on 27 right now. So I've been having these kind of conversations for decades. Well, for a decade, I've been having this conversation, right? And again, I have gotten to see both sides. I have gotten to witness the side that lives with faith, as you said, that exists in that faith alone. And while I don't exist in that faith alone, I exist in action and I exist in sometimes manifestation. And that can be a type of faith, but it's also an actionable faith, right? Because I'm not having faith that something will be done for me, that something will be changed for me. I manifest, and in that manifestation, I start building backwards the step that needs to be taken for me to get to that point, right? So there's again a personal responsibility. The prayer I have is one towards myself. I pray that I'm going to do what's good for myself. I pray that I'll exercise. I pray that I'll eat food that serve my body. I'll pray that I'll sleep enough, right? And if I can manifest those prayers in my life, then my life will be better, right? Praying for something to save me is not helpful. It's never been helpful, right? I've never seen it help a single person. It might help them with some sort of mental anguish, but again, that mental anguish is a symptom. And you just putting a sticker, a little plaster over said symptom or over said problem, right, doesn't really make the symptoms. Like weed can be that too for me, right? If I feel stressed, smoking weed can make me feel less stressed. But at the same time, that's not necessarily always the case, right? And it's the same thing for religious beliefs too. That it might help right now, but it doesn't always help, right? And when it doesn't help, it doesn't help extra. Okay, then you get to the meat. What's your problem with Jesus? I don't have any problem with Jesus. Me and Jesus are homies. I've had like whole visions where I'm battling pentagrams, right? So I like see these pentagrams in my field of vision, with my eyes closed, and I'm like very like perturbed on a spiritual level by these pentagrams in my mind space. And then I'll struggle against them and I'll start turning these pentagrams just a few degrees. And instead of it being like that downward facing point, it's an upward facing point, right? The person basically standing, you are that star, right? Standing upwards. If you are as a person the reverse of what you could be, that would be Satan, that would be evil. And as I'm battling these pentagrams, turning them upright, turning them towards purity, I see Jesus there with me, right? Completely, I want to use the word uninvolved because he knows that all of us are that, right? All of us are that same energy of working towards bettering, right? Turning that pentagram inside of us towards a star, right? Trying to be better. And that's the thing for me, right? Again, Jesus' teaching was that all of us are that which he was here to be. All of us are that. He wasn't special. He never wanted to be special. There is a misinterpretation, right? I have a problem with that. If I have a problem with anything, I have a problem with the misinterpretation and the manipulation of his message to try and control people, right? To create it again a hierarchy, a power struggle of a top down, you need to give your thing to this person, right? And your thing is your soul, your actual soul. You have to give your soul, right? It is selling your soul kind of vibes as well, whether you want to believe it or not. But I'm selling my soul into heaven. You're still selling your soul, though. Technically, you're not taking personal responsibility. You're giving soul custody to Jesus, right? And that to me is kind of like Like, what are you doing? You shouldn't be doing that. Mm, one of the things, though, it isn't fair to assign malice to what can be attributed to ignorance. So true. Fear based actions come from a lack of knowing or misunderstanding. Acts of love come from a mind of curiosity, an interest in understanding fully without judgment. I don't want to just tell you what you heard a million times. Tell me what your main issue of Jesus and his claims. Yeah, there you go. I have no issues whatsoever. Like, none. Okay, you say you and Jesus homies, but Jesus claimed to be God. And I claim to be God too. The same way Jesus did. Right? And again, the way that Jesus claimed to be God was also not for everybody else to drop down and start worshiping him and kissing his feet. It was a fractal of this is the truth about what we are. This is the truth. He was here to teach us the truth. The I am is God. Right? And again, the misinterpretation. And all of us have that teaching in us. All of us have that ability to teach. And not everybody is brave enough to, right? And that's why the story is significant. He claimed to be God. He claimed that he and the Father are one. Yes, I claim so too. He never said, we're all God. I do. He alone accepted worship, claiming that he is God. Yeah, you see? Like, I don't know that he did do that, actually. Because again, not like Jesus didn't write anything. Not a single word was written by Jesus. So if he had stuff like that to say, I think he would have made a point of saying that. That just so you know, just so it's very clear, like I'm the only one and everybody needs to worship me, right? Like, wouldn't have taken him long to write that down, but he chose not to if he existed in the first place, right? Like, I'm not even 100% sold on that. But yeah, I like the idea, right? It's a beautiful story. And I can take the value from that story that is self sacrifice for the love of humanity and take that as the teaching, that is the matter we're trying to uplift to the skies, right? The part of us that is willing to self sacrifice. And there's a lot to be said about the manipulation of why. Why do we want people to really think about self sacrifice? And I am one of those people. If I could hit a button and then just suddenly cure all cancer, cure all blind people, like abolish poverty by pushing a button, do all of that, but you die. I would hit that button as quick as I could, right? Boom. Instantly, my life contributes to the solving of all human problems. But that's not how this works. It's not that easy, right? I have to try and contribute as a life to making this world a better place if I want to see this world become a better place. Like, that's the only way. That literally is the only way. That's how the rules are set. Yes, Joe Burp, having faith is not wrong. It's sometimes helpful for the individual to place strength outside themselves. How people live in faith is not wrong. Letting people live how they please. Yeah, that's the thing for me as well. Like, I rarely try and tell people what they're supposed to believe. I usually just share my personal experience, Naxion. And that's like one thing that I have like as a little bit of a gripe with the Christian religion as well. It's like, as soon as you try to tell me you know something that I don't, right? If you try and set yourself up as an authority, especially as it relates to a religion, right? You lose a lot of voter confidence, to say it in that way, right? You instantly get like a switch that switches off in most brains. There was a scene in the show, Killing Eve, where Jesus shows up to an assassin as herself in drag. Herself in drag? Super chill and eating potato chips. I thought of you, Meld. Really? Oh my. How new is that Killing Eve thing? Because I'm getting deja vu right now. I had that vision, the whole Jesus eating chips on a loaf, on a soup. What do you call those things? A beanbag. That's what you call them in English. We call them a poof in Afrikaans. A beanbag. Just like chill out on a beanbag, eating chips, watching me fighting pentagrams. I was like, oh wait, this guy knows that I'm trying to make the world a better place. And he's not trying to get involved. He's not trying to tell me how I'm supposed to do it. He's just chillaxing, eating chips, right? We're homies. We're like in the same space. We're like holding the space for each other, you know, supporting one another. Because if I wrote a book about how perfect and great and how I'm God, I would get laughed at because everyone can write about how great they are. That's why Jesus never wrote. Who wrote about Jesus was the eyewitnesses. Yeah, I hear you. But like, he didn't have to write about how great he is and how he's God. He could have just written his inner dialogue with God. You know, he could have written the most beautiful like messages for us to absorb afterwards. But also, he didn't do that, right? Nothing is to be mocked in that technically. It's very hard for people to try to grow the flock and force faith slash religions onto others. People are allowed to find their own faith in anything and everything. The way people think and process is unique. Yes, it was historical records from multiple points of view, multiple perspectives. Yeah. Actually, I said, you are gods. You are all sons of the Most High. Yeah, that was Jesus. You are all gods. You are gods. Jesus said that. There you go. Psalm 82 verse 6. So there we go. You know, literally, Jesus is saying, I like that guy. Yeah, like a fingerprint. You can't force a fish to climb a tree. Exactly. Yeah. So there we go. I want to read that again. Uh, can you tell us about Psalms 82 verse 6? You know, so we don't have to believe just what Jovan said. We'll take extra. Well, hey, you're making very much noises. We'll take extra notes. So there was no manipulation, and if you say so, then you can't trust any historical document. I don't trust historical documents, Nexion. And if you do, then you have a problem, right? Like an actual problem. You do realize our current history also plays like a certain time horizon, right? Like even our current history is like, oh yeah, we were only hunter gathering like 12,000 years ago, right? No, no. There were literal civilizations, like people building cities 12,000 years ago. But we also don't know about that stuff, right? And the massive flood that happened probably happened because of a cosmological event that literally fucking wiped our shit out. And we probably knew, like civilizations knew that it was coming too. That's why we built these literal structures all over the planet, these massive triangles we call pyramids, because we knew everything else was going to get washed. And only the most powerful, most tall objects would actually stand the test of time, right? Like, I can't believe that that's your take. Oh yeah, so if you can't believe the Bible, then you shouldn't be believing history. Like I don't believe history. I like it. It's if you actually like take a proper sit down with what our current history is, right? It becomes very apparent that nobody knows what the fuck's going on. We're a species of amnesia. That's because a lot of historical knowledge relies on eyewitnesses. Yeah, like people are bad eyewitnesses today. Like there are people in jail right now because of bad eyewitness reports today. Like that's happening right now, probably. No, stop, please. And you're saying you don't like when people try to take authority and tell you things you don't know. Sir, never go to school then. You're giving me more good advice. School is another sham, bro. Doesn't help. But the world that we're moving towards, school is not the answer, unfortunately. Right? Like you're not going to be at an advantage having gone to school. You're going to be at an advantage knowing how to use your tools, but you can pray as much as you want to, right? For instance, like let's say this, Nixion. Maybe both of us want success for our lives, right? And both of us imagine what success could look like. And then I spend the next 5 years trying to build something towards my success. And I don't spend a second praying. I spend every second I have building. And then you spend the next 5 years praying, and you don't spend a second building. Over the next 5 years, my prayers of wanting success would have been realized without me saying a single prayer, and none of your prayers would have been realized despite you saying all of the prayers. Right? So, in that way, it again becomes a matter of you, becomes a matter of your input, becomes a matter of your effort, not the effort of the school, not the effort of history, the effort of use. No, I don't have a problem because, like it or not, truth exists. And if you don't trust historical knowledge, then I don't know what to say to you. I mean, some of the historical knowledge is better documented than others, right? And more well believed than others. I don't know what to say to you. I doubt you learned math by yourself. I doubt you learned language by yourself. All science, history, 90% of all knowledge comes from people. In the past, they wrote things down. If you can't trust that, thank you, mama. And GG, you really win. I don't know what to say to you there. So, again, it's a matter of perspective, right? It's a matter of perspective. It's a matter of how much information I'm actually willing to absorb. ChatGPT about the Gospel of Thomas. I do know about that one, Mojo, where that one is supposed to be that, right? That thing I mentioned of like Jesus's account of his exchange with God, right? Like what a Bible that if Thomas had to sit down with Jesus and write down everything he had to say, that would have been the book. And that one was also excluded from the Bible, right? And we were talking about manipulation and not trusting people, right? Like we have been shown. So let me ask you this, Naxian. Do you also trust? Do you also trust the government? Right? Maybe I can ask that as like a real question. Do you trust the government? Right? Because your point is like GG to me. If you can't trust that, then GG, you really win. I don't know what else to say to you. Right? Do you trust our governments? Right? Because our governments are actively telling us. They're the ones distributing books, right? They're the ones keeping the power on, that make the books, that print the books, right? Do you trust them? And if you say about GGs, it's like, bro, cities were around during the younger dryas. Oh yeah, school is for chumps. School is for those who want to know what is believed, what is well accepted right now. That is what school is for, right? And you can gain value from what is well accepted right now. I'm not saying that's not so, but again, there's a lot more than what is known. And unfortunately, school only focuses on what is known, literally by nature, right? And there's a lot more of the unknown than there is the known. I was showering. What did I miss? We just were having some conversations, some fun ones. The story I'm hearing at Twitch is one of not believing in the self, not believing in equality, believing whatever authority tells you to do, then they make a good worker probably. Yeah, maybe you would be. Naxion? No, because the government is completely corrupt. Aha! The government is completely corrupt. Okay, tell me more. Which is why I put my faith in Jesus, not in the government. That's why I'm happy when I'll be judged. I'll be judged by all the knowing God, not the US Supreme Court. So why do you think that for long now, churches are tax exempt? Because the government loves the church? Because the church is a tool the government uses, right? Like it's very clear. You're like, oh no, of course, the government's completely corrupt. The same people that are in power when it comes to the government are the same people that have been in power as it relates to our religions too, as it relates to our education, as it relates to our public services, as it relates to people starving right now without food, while other people are literally dying of obesity, right? Those are the same people. All of them are the same people. They've been making decisions collectively, right? And one of those decisions is religion. It's a very, very deliberate decision, right? And again, you don't have to believe me about this stuff. What you're actually asking, are you being cynical? Cause I got an answer for you. Yeah, please give me an answer. Right? It's like, why do you think why do you think there's like, usually when governments are involved, they're very related to like religion, politics too, right? They're like Israel, the Middle East, Christianity, and America. Like, why do you think that is, bro? Think that stuff happens accidentally? No. Hell no, nothing happens by accident, bro. Like, you're talking about not knowing your history. Me not knowing my history, bro. Like, you just have to pay attention to what the church has been doing. Literally since its inception. What the church has been up to, bro. You gotta see. If you want to see true evil. Uh yeah, but do let me know. I love this Nexian person. It's been a while, yeah. Like, and I'm here for this conversation. I hope that I'm not being too dismissive, right? Because I do enjoy debating like this, but I am, you know, I am like this. Are you actually asking? I don't know if a message got missed. It's been a while since I've heard someone speak like that. Good luck to you. Life will unfold quite soon. Prepare yourself for it. It's true. Yeah. Are you a good worker? I hope you're being paid well at least. In Psalms 82, verse 6, it says, I have said, ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High. The verse comes from a psalm where God is addressing human judges or rulers who have been entrusted with the responsibility to act justly. The verse reminds us that, in a sense, those given authority are endowed with a spark of divine. Even though they are human, they carry them with the image and potential of God. And I can see already this fractal of like, oh yeah, but it's they're like gods, not everyone. They don't. He didn't actually. In his immediate context, the psalm rebukes these judges for failing to defend the weak and to administer justice. Yet, on a broader spiritual level, many interpret this verse as an invitation to recognize our own inherent divine potential. It suggests that every human being is, at their core, a child of the Most High, called to live out qualities like wisdom, compassion, and integrity. Uh, Jesus himself referred to this passage in John 10, verse 34. How about that? When he was challenged by accusations of blasphemy, using the psalm to illustrate that if scripture can speak of human beings as gods, then our true nature is far from that of mere mortals. This connection serves as a call for us to elevate our care for one another, yes, seeing each other as God and uplifting, right? Like washing the feet of one another, metaphorically speaking, as God, like having that reverence towards. The scripture can speak of human beings as gods, then our true nature is far from being mere mortals. The connection serves as a call for us to alleviate our care for one another, to elevate our care for one another, to exercise our divine responsibilities with the grace and justice that reflects our higher nature. Yeah, so even Jesus knew about that line. Even Jesus was like, yeah, like look in this line. Ye, ye are gods. I have said ye are gods. Right? So even the Bible itself is like standing what I'm saying. I'm not saying anything that's controversial. The answer is because the government, let's see, likes to use everything to benefit themselves. Okay, so in that point, I'll read the rest now. That means, in the same way as military, in the same way as educational systems, in the same way as for profit hospitals, benefits the government, and that's why they are in that, they are using that. A church is one of those things they're using, and that's been working. What do you think it's working for, right? What do you think they're gaining from that? To benefit themselves. Yo, to think you're so clever, lie, you made a point. But during Pride Month, suddenly all the big companies put an LGBT flag on. But do you think they actually care? No, it's an agenda. But that has nothing to do with Jesus. Like, I don't know exactly what you're trying to say, dear friend. It feels like you're like grasping at some talking points a little bit. You think you're so clever? Lie. You made a point. Like, I'm making these points and you telling me you think you're so clever and then telling me it's like Pride Month, right? Like, you need to give me more context than that, right? Actually dispute my claims. New wrong verse. Never mind, it redeemed itself. There we go. Yeah. Millions of people say they're Christians to look good, even in my own city, but then next day they go to the strip club. Yeah, I've never been in a strip club in my life, and I don't call myself a Christian because for me, the actual act of being good, right, doing things that serve my soul, is more important to me than saying word and assuming you think I do things that serve my soul, right? Like that's my whole gripe with religion. You're saying the exact same thing I am. Again, big point is that people are hypocrites. Yes. But again, what's your point? Instead of focusing on what other people do, look at Jesus. Yeah, you can. It's good to do that. But again, right? Religion is a form of control, right? And you're just in the certain flavor. You're in that flavor of control. But if you were born somewhere else, you would be a part of a different flavor of control. And I'm not saying that that's bad. Some people like to be controlled. Some people enjoy that consistency, that reliability of, okay, I'm being controlled. And then by being controlled, I'm going here and I'm doing this, right? The loop of going to church once a week, right? That's a form of control that people can rely on, a pattern. They can look into some community technically that they can find comfort within. But again, not everybody enjoys that form of control. Also, yeah, the scripture is real. We are children of God. He made us in his image, but that does not mean we are God. Yeah. And I didn't say that, again, from the perspective of like we should be the most all high. I said we're all God, right? And the Bible, even Jesus himself says that too. Scripture can speak of human beings as gods, right? That's what I'm saying. That's literally what I'm saying. Religion is not control. I'm of the belief, personally, that religion is a form of control. Please, with no holding back, giving me it as it is, cut to the chase of the truth. Is religion in our world used to control people or used to help people? Like, look at the facts and come back to me with a real answer. Maximum truth. Because I don't know about you, but I've never seen religion used for anything else, right? And again, control is can be used for good. I'm willing to acknowledge that too. Full circle, where people often prioritize being right over being correct. You are extremely judgmental, sir. Okay, like where I'm from, right? Not being a Christian, I'm allowed to judge people. But where you're from, being a Christian, you're not allowed to judge people. So you coming to the conclusion that I am extremely judgmental is your judgment, which you're not allowed to make. I'll have you know. I'll have you know. You know literally nothing about me or my journey. I didn't say I knew anything about you. I wasn't judging you. I wasn't making any judgment towards you. I was making judgments towards religion and the fact that it's a form of control. That was my judgment, not towards you. How do you know I'm Christian? Because I'm being manipulated. How do you know why I'm Christian? How do you know I'm Christian? Because I'm being manipulated. Again, it's a matter of where you were born and raised, right? For instance, if we had to destroy all of our science books, right? All of our math had to be eviscerated, and all of our religious text would have to be eviscerated. 1,000 years later, Our math will arise from the dust again, but our religions won't. In that way, when we use language, it is technically a form of manipulation. Even now, I'm trying to manipulate you into understanding my point of view, technically, right? So when you write stories like that, it is manipulation. And then when you're born into a family that believes those ideas, they manipulate you into believing those ideas. When you find yourself in a community, in a congregation, right, they manipulate you into feeling things about this religion and about that collective, right? And then you're in that point as well, right? Like you could say anything to me. You could say anything to me, but the one thing in your mind is to talk about this religion, right? Like that is a form of manipulation that you're putting into the world. This conversation could have gone anywhere, but you manipulated this conversation to go there, right? So it's like me reasoning backwards, seeing where you're coming from by exactly what you're saying. Lol, we are not clever, yeah. Like I wasn't trying to be that clever. What does a clever even mean? We are all constantly learning and evolving our beliefs. As an individual on Earth, we are allowed to be strong in our beliefs. Just deal with it. Yeah. You seem a little bit aggressive, wishing you lightness in your day. Yeah, I've been pretty chill. I've been just like chilling here, having some fun conversations. Mm, we're able to think freely and believe different things. Is that abstract of a concept? Just made a boatload of assumptions, and I'm extremely hurt by that. Okay, then correct my assumptions. Let me know that this is an assumption you made that's not true, and I would like for you to apologize for making it, right? But I didn't make any assumptions about you. I was generalizing, talking about this concept as I experienced it in my life, right? If it hurts you hearing these things, then that is a good opportunity for you to reflect, for you to look inside. I've never made such a huge assumption about you. I don't know why you're not Christian, and I wouldn't assume. Hard trigger. Clearly, you're triggered by this. Take a breath, friend. Yeah, we're chilling. Getting pretty hot, actually. The fan hasn't been running for a while. My point is, you don't know where I was raised or where I was brought up. The point I'm making, this is my point. If you weren't raised and you weren't in a place, then you wouldn't be religious. That's the point I'm making. And in that way, being religious is a form of manipulation. You have been manipulated. Because again, you are looking through this lens of being a person. And there are other people, right? And people like believing the same things, right? And it's good for me to convince you to believe the same thing I'm believing, because then we can be together. We can have a collective goal. We can solve a collective problem. Right? That's the point of the manipulation that is language. That's why language is powerful. But in the meanwhile, we have utilized our language to tell the story of religion, right? And again, if you couldn't talk, if you were a disembodied consciousness floating somewhere in space, you wouldn't believe in Jesus. You would just be, right? And you would just be in the same way you can just be right now. But because you have the influence, the manipulation of our world, you have a certain perspective, right? And that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? I am manipulated that way too. I care about certain things more than I do others because of those worldly manipulations. I'm not like excluding myself from saying this by saying it to you, right? That's just the reality of being a person on earth, right? And for me, knowing that reality, I become very vigilant about what I let in afterwards, right? I become even more mindful about what is it that I believe. The point is, you don't know where I was raised. Yeah, again, you were raised, and you are somewhere, right? And in that way, where you're raised and where that somewhere is, there can be religion. You also did assume that he had a problem with Jesus earlier. True, you did. So take a step back and observe a little more outwards towards what is happening here. Yeah. And I wasn't attacking the Jesus archetype at all, right? That wasn't my thing, right? It would be like attacking a friend. I would love to just be able to sit down and have a conversation. But again, right, that's not something I can assume or something I can expect. These discussions are always tough, and it's hard not to take things personally. We are all here to learn and to grow, and sometimes we accidentally step on each other's toes. But I promise it all comes from a place of love. Maybe conversation. Take two, reasonable people. Yeah, I can be pretty unreasonable. I understand your point of view. I just find it ridiculous. Yeah, I'm like that's kind of one of the one of the themes about me. I am a little bit ridiculous. I'm willing to admit that too. But sure, mate, go up to a Jew and tell them that the Holocaust was just manipulation for sympathy. You see, you're doing that thing my dad does again, where you're like, yeah, just do this thing. Oh, so you're saying these things are the same. Yeah, tell a Jew the Holocaust was manipulation. Yeah, do that. Where are you coming from? The history books that was just buried. Holocaust never happened, like that type of logic. Okay, history is not a science. You don't get a time machine to go back to see Abraham Lincoln get shot to know it happened. Yeah, Nixon lid is flipped. Yeah, like I knew almost like from the start, like there was only two fractals, right? There was either me being like 100% Christian, or me being 100% not Christian, and him talking about Bible verses. And then when I like was willing to absorb a Bible verse, and I found like some fault in that immediate Bible verse, I was like, right? That's where the the lid got flipped, because how dare I? How dare I think for myself? Did you fucking just think for yourself out? Stop it. You stop doing that right now. They tap into their empathy. Melt, you're not triggered. That was a projection. I'm still hot. And like the fans aren't running anymore. My battery is on 68%. You hang on to a lot of what ifs, but that's not grounded in reality, bro. Don't start with me about what's grounded in reality. Your whole thing is a what if, right? Your whole religion is built on a what if. Like, what if you don't get saved by Jesus and you burn in hell forever, right? That's like the point. That's why you want to get saved, right? Because what if, right? And the what if of you living a good life is not good enough. So you have to have this what if of asking Jesus to stand in for you when you're at the point of judgment, right? And for Jesus to vouch for you, right? That's your what if that you are relying on. You're building your whole thing on that, right? So like we cannot exactly project the what ifs that our reality is grounded on, or that's not grounded in reality. Stop saying I'm manipulated. I was literally brought up in a non-religious household, and as such, I'm actually studied multiple religions, with Christianity is the last. Yeah, okay. So in that way, your mind, right? Maybe I'm using the wrong word. Uh, I believe that religion is technically a form of manipulation, but I also believe that language is a form of manipulation. A friend is taking some issue with me using that word. Can we rephrase it? What better word can we use instead of manipulation? Because again, if we didn't have the, we wouldn't be able to be manipulated into believing one thing or another at all. So in my mind, believing anything, we were technically manipulated into it, right? We might have been manipulated through reason, manipulated through belief, manipulated through faith, but there is still some form of manipulation through language in that way. Uh, I actually study. There we go. Who's the other person? I like them. Yeah, bro, stop thinking for yourself. That's definitely what I'm saying here. Glad we're on the same page. All I started thinking for myself, and then you instantly took problem with that. You were like, "Why are you against Jesus?" And I was like, "I didn't say that. I didn't say that." Mel being Melt and sharing his presence, blessings as always. And no, my belief is not grounded in the what ifs. It's grounded on historical evidence. There's historical evidence that if you believe in Jesus, you go to heaven. Yeah, see, I've been missing out. I would have been absorbing that ever since this whole time. This conversation tells me Christians like to fight. Oh yeah, it's true. Hey, I'm not fighting. There we go. Yeah, not all of them, I guess. I'm just getting triggered by this. Love you, Shada. Love is true. I'm just playing, trying to bring some levity to a pretty interesting discussion. So, what does 9/11 tell you about Islam? Since you like to generalize so much, you think 9/11 was done by Islam? Conditioning or influenced. You've been influenced, dear friend. Both terms acknowledge that language shapes our beliefs and perceptions over time, imprinting ideas on us through repeated exposure. And you literally told us, Naxion, that you spent time repeatedly exposing yourself to surprise that you came to the conclusion that you want to be religious. Imprinting ideas on us through repeated exposure without necessarily carrying the overtly negative, coercive connotation that manipulation does. And again, in that way, I grew up in a household of religion, right? You grew up in a household in that environment, right? I have had a lot more time than you to consider those ideas and to consider whether or not I am being manipulated into believing one thing or the other. So again, hmm, was that an assumption? I think so. I think we're leaving some judgments on the table here. I do want to read the previous little bit that goes into religion is a double-edged sword. It is used both to control and to help people. Yes, help can be a form of control as well. And the truth depends on a great deal of context. On the one hand, history shows us many instances where religion was, in fact, functioned as a tool of control. Powerful institutions and leaders often use religious doctrine and dogma to inform and enforce social norms, legalize authority, and even suppress dissent. Think of how medieval authorities employed excommunication or the way colonial powers imposed their beliefs to dominate indigenous cultures. Critics like Richard Dawkins, Sam Harris, and Christopher Hitchens have argued that religion often serves to manipulate and restrict human freedom under the guise of divine commandment. Wow, it's almost like MeltMore says that too, I guess. On the other hand, religion has also been a profound source of help and inspiration. For countless individuals, religious faith provides meaning, community, and comfort in times of crisis, and a moral framework that guides ethical behavior. Many religious organizations run charities, hospitals, and educational institutions, offering tangible support to those in need. Again, those are people's money that they're using to offer for those in need. And again, the control is when there are things like churches, the the responsibility of actually taking care of people, of having charities, of having hospitals and educational institutions falls on those who are holier than thou, who are the godly among us, instead of it being something that is widely accepted. So again, it places this, yeah, all of you are suffering because you're not God fearing enough, right? That's manipulation. You're being manipulated into believing something, unfortunately, right? That's kind of the reality of the situation. And you can be angry about that, or you can do something about that. So if we cut to the chase, religion has been and continues to be used as both a means of control and as a vehicle to help. The same core traditions that have at times constrained human freedom have also uplifted millions by fostering hope, love, and community. Ultimately, the impact of religion depends on how it's interpreted and applied by its leaders and followers. Yeah, that's true, right? It's true. Well, yeah, I've been influenced. So what? I don't live on Mars, mate. We have all been influenced. It's true, right? And all I'm saying to you is that the same influence that led you to believing what you do led me to not believing what you do. That's the point I'm making. And for you to be like, oh yeah, guess you don't want history. It's like, no, I was exposed to the exact same history that you were exposed to, right? I just came to different conclusions. And that doesn't make me wrong, right? And again, we live in a world where it's impossible to know who's right as well. So it's kind of like one of those things of like, what are we even talking about? Like, what's the point? There's no value to be added other than just me making a point, right? I can make a point, and then you can make a point, and then I can make a point again. If you want to call that, wait a second, you don't have to be influenced. And if you did live on Mars, you wouldn't know anything. You'd just be a mindless doll. Yeah, potentially, because knowledge is passed down. If you want to call that manipulation, then again, bro, I don't know what to tell you. That's literally what it is, though, right? If I have been told, for instance, how to be a fabric or let's say a factory worker, right? I grew up with my dad being a factory worker, and he taught me everything he knew about factory work, right? And then I suddenly enter a world where there's automation and robotics everywhere and all factory work is gone. Then I have been manipulated my whole life into believing there will be work for me that doesn't exist, right? Maybe my dad didn't do it intentionally, but I've still been manipulated, whether or not he intended for it to be so. So that is what it's called. That is literally what it's called. And you keep saying religion this, religion that, and I'm not even denying that. Of course, oh, it's the first time you're not denying it. Of course, religion has been used to get an agenda. But what does that have to do with Jesus? Jesus is the vehicle that they're agendaing with. That is what it does have to do with Jesus, bro. Like they're intertwined, right? It's like, what is that like? If someone drives a spear into your heart, right, and the tip of the spear is the Jesus part, but the stick is what they're doing with it, right? Like it doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter. Jesus is a cool dude, which we must learn from. Be wary of the church and the government and whatever authority tells you to believe about Jesus, and be sure to seek other references. The mark of an intelligent mind is the ability to entertain facts without necessarily accepting them as truth. Keep questioning everything. Always look through the eyes of curiosity, not clouded judgment. These are the teachings of Jesus. Whilst I'm still live, we are live a little bit longer. We've been having fun conversations. Following Jesus instead of religion is something I hear a lot of. I totally get that. Institutions often carry their own baggage. It's true. Melt picture looks dark. It's because it's getting dark, unfortunately, and there's no electricity, so can't even turn the lights on. Joban, that's why you should look into the research yourself. Something more can do because he doesn't believe in knowledge. Yes, I haven't done more research on religion because I don't believe in knowledge. He thinks it's all corrupted. Tell me more. But if you believe in knowledge, eyewitness books, historical records, you can go and learn for yourself. If I say, yeah, I beat my wife because Jesus says so, you can go to the Bible and see Jesus never once demonstrated or told anyone to beat their wife. Yeah. Okay. Well, that was fun, Nexion. I'm happy that you have come to the conclusion of all of my beliefs in such a short period of time, right? Now that you have labeled me so perfectly, you don't really have to come back. Oh, yeah, because you already know everything about me and all my beliefs and all the value that I have to give, right? You got it. You got it, bro. That was fun. It was nice getting to know you. If I'm going to form a same baseline accusation of you or assumption of you, I'm going to go Naxian is a scholar of the world and of religion. And I've come to believe things. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah. Please, sir, don't put words in others' mouth. That's not admirable or a Jesus-like trait. But Jesus would acknowledge that Naxian likes absorbing history and likes coming to conclusions thereon. All right, then all of us get to do the same. Your perspective is your reality. Oh, yes. And I have this perspective on reality that I appreciate you, friends. I appreciate you for joining me, for showing up. Jesus would say, play nice. I love everyone here, and I appreciate your perspectives. Appreciating yours too. Thank you, friends, for joining me today. It's always nice having you here for these conscious evolutions, for these considerations about what we care about. Yes, I care about truth. I care about truth so much, like a lot, and I cannot tolerate anything less than. I appreciate you, friends, showing me the truth that is love. I hope you have the most resplendent day, everyone. I wholeheartedly love you all so incomparably, transcendently, prodigiously, staggeringly, wondrously, meticulously, miraculously, and sublimely, fabulously, divinely, uncommonly, Melt. That's me. And all of you, oh so benignant, 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 beneficent, magnanimous and altruistic, empathetic, solicitous, gracious, cordial, tender-hearted, heartwarming friends who embrace diversity. I appreciate you showing up with me and for caring about this moment. God bless. Hope you come to God one day. I'm already with God. That's what I literally told you right from the get-go, right? I feel like that's also one of the big problems, right? Is that as soon as you try and tell me that if only you did this thing, you would have more God, when I'm literally here as you are, right? And God in the Bible told us that He so loved us so that we can be here as we are. So I'm with God. Thank you for being with me. I love you, friends. I appreciate you. I'll see you again soon. Tomorrow. Goodbye.